Oi, oi, Tottenham fans. How are we all doing out there? Welcome back to my new podcast, the Tottenham Tirade. Thanks to everyone who tuned in, gave me a few watches and a few comments. Definitely appreciate the reception I got from the first step. It was probably a little bit more than I was expecting, or a little bit more than I was hoping for. But yeah, definitely put a smile on my face. It's definitely nice to know that a few of you are tuning in and give me a bit of a listen. I really appreciate it. Tonight we'll be going over the Europa League draw, which happened tonight, my time, 11 p.m. my time. And we'll be looking forwards towards the Ipswich game, which will be coming up tomorrow night, 2 a.m. my time. Bit of a late one, but I'll be off seeing some friends' bands play tomorrow night, and I'll come back and be watching the game after that happens. So to the Europa League draw, we drew AZ Alkmaar, which I think is a really positive result in the draw. The other one we could have had was Real Sociedad, who I think would have put up a bit of a challenge. Not to say that AZ Alkmaar won't. I think whoever you draw at this stage in a European competition is always going to offer up some challenges. Obviously, a little bit less challenge in the Europa League compared to the Champions League, but a fair bit more than the Conference League. I had a look in that, and definitely some weaker opponents or weaker competition in the Conference League, as to be expected. First leg will be an away leg at the Stadium in Netherlands. I had a little bit of a look at that stadium in 2019. They had part of their roof blow off in a storm. I think it caused some pretty significant damage. They managed to get that repaired in 2020. They had about 2/3 of the roof that they repaired. Pretty crazy stuff. Hopefully, no one was in the stadium at the time. I couldn't see exactly when it happened. I think it's about a 19,000 seater, so it'll be a little bit of a smaller stadium. But we definitely saw in the match that we played against them recently that their fans bring some energy. I thought they were up and about, and always like to see it. I think you want to see fans that get up and about. I know Tottenham like to make some noise, particularly when we're up and about, but hopefully we're up and about regardless. The first game that we played against them, we won 1-0. It wasn't the greatest performance that you've seen from a Tottenham side. In saying that, though, we didn't have our strongest side out there. I know we had Forster in goal. I think our front three was Moore, Ritchie, and Werner. Um, we played Gray and Bergvall in that game. I think Gray played at right back. Um, and yeah, they weren't quite performing at the level that they are now. So hopefully, coming into this game, all things continuing on the path that we're in, or the path that we're on, we should be able to put out a stronger lineup. I think the same will be the case for them, though. I think they also had some players out injured in the game that we played a couple of months ago. I think AZ performed really well in their games against Galatasaray. They won 6-3 on aggregate across both the legs. They had a very impressive home win of 4-1, which set them up for the second leg, and they only needed that 2-2 draw with Galatasaray in the second leg to get them through to the round of 16. I don't think they'll be too stoked that they drew us. I'm sure they would have preferred Man United, who we took care of last weekend. But in these competitions, you've got to play whoever you draw. That's the beauty of it. You could get a stronger draw, you could get a weaker draw. I do think that we drew the better side of the Europa League, the silver side of the draw. Looks like there's slightly less level of competition than on the other side. So unlucky United, you deal with that side. We'll deal with ours, and hopefully, especially on the Spurs side of things, we do well and can make it through to the final. And who cares what they do over their side? I'd happily knock them off in the final if it comes to that. If we get through this round of 16, we'll be playing Ajax or Frankfurt in the quarterfinals. Both challenging teams, but I think teams that on our day we can knock off. I think I go into thinking that we can knock off any team on our day. That's some of the optimism I have coming into games, and then far too often Spurs leave me bashing my head against the wall, going, "Had we not managed to beat them?" But I got some confidence. I think we're laying it all on the line with the Europa League. It's our one hope of getting European football. Well, our strongest hope of getting European football. I won't delve into the league positions and the likelihood of us climbing the table, but as I said in the last video, if we can keep climbing towards the top 10, I think that's a good thing. Um, I did have a look on the silver side of the draw, and obviously Ajax were a great team for a long time, and I mean still are. I don't think they're quite as strong as they have been in previous seasons, but they obviously will provide some fight. And Frankfurt, they're a rowdy bunch, and I think they're travelling quite well. I think they might be third in their league, in the German league. I would have to double check that. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I believe that's accurate. I think Lazio might be the most difficult opposition on our side of the draw, um, but a fair way away from looking at that. Once this Europa League game comes around in 3 games' time, we've just got to put our best foot forward in the first leg and smack them at home in the second leg, and then we can look forward towards the semi-finals, hopefully. Looking forward towards the Ipswich game. It's payback time, I reckon. We bloody owe them one. It was extremely disappointing result when we played them last time. 2-1 loss at home. Was Ipswich's first win for the season, I believe. So definitely a shock result, and probably like at the start of when things started to go downhill for us a bit this season. Not that, I mean, it's been a staggered season all the way through, but yeah, I think we came into that game with a lot of hope that we could take care of business and didn't really get it done. I do think we had the better of the chances, and we created more chances at least in the first time we played in this season, but didn't capitalize, and that's all that matters ultimately. Like if you're not capitalizing on your results and you're not taking your chances, then other teams will swoop in, and everyone remembers the 3 points. Everyone remembers where that gets you on the table and where the results take you. No one remembers who had more shots in the game, apart from me, apparently, when I do some research before doing one of these podcasts. The last game, Smodix and Delat both scored in the first half, so we went in at halftime 2-0 down. The second half, we got one back through Bentancur, but it just wasn't enough, which is really disappointing. I think we just need to be picking up these 3 points, and regardless of who we were able to put out there in that first leg, we needed to pick up the 3 points then. Ipswich's last 5 games have been not great. They did get a draw against Villa, which is a good result. No complaints about that. But apart from that, in their last 5, they've lost the other 4. So not that that means too much to good old Tottenham, because we saw how that went in the first leg, or the reverse fixture, I should say. Having a look at the lineup, I wouldn't be surprised if Postecoglou doesn't change too much, depending on the fitness of a few players. I haven't had a chance. I'm not sure if his press is out at the time of recording. I have had a look, but I haven't heard too many updates on a few of the injured players, or the players that got knocks at least in the last game, or if there's potentially anyone else who could be returning. I won't hold my breath for Van de Ven to be coming back. Who knows what's going on there? It'd be nice to get some more clarity, but we've just got to deal with who's out there and who is available. So our lineup from the last game, obviously Vicario in goal. He was huge coming back, and hopefully he can be huge again for us in this Ipswich game. I think a back 4 of Porro, Danso, Davies, Spence. They did perform pretty well in the last game, apart from a few moments. midfield three of Bergvall, Bentancur, and Matters. Obviously, Matters the shining light of them in the last game. Hopefully, he can continue on that form because I think when he's up and about, Tottenham are up and about. Some of his best performances have come in some of our best games, and I thought looking a long way back to the start of last season in that 10 game run we had where we were flying on top of the world and everyone was singing Ange's names in the streets. Um, I think Matters was our best player at that stage through that run. We had a lot of good players in that run, but I think Matters might have been the best player in the league for those 10 games or during that little run. But we can't look back too far, and Matters can't be looking back too far. He's got to turn himself into the best player in the league. I think he's potentially our most skilled player that's in our squad. I think his ability to turn and wriggle free in tight spaces and his ability to create space for himself and other players, I think makes a huge difference to us. I think he looks for a lot of passes that a lot of our other players won't look for as well, which really helps against any teams that are deciding to sit back and try and perform that low block style, defensive style, counter attacking style football that a lot of teams seem to play against us, particularly when we're playing well. When we're up and about and we're controlling possession and we're pushing forward, a lot of teams will choose to sit back. And we need players that have the key to unlock those defenses. And I think Matters is one of those players that can offer that ability when he's on his game. And we need him on his game because he can offer so much. I think Ange will probably go with a front three of Decky, Tal, and Sonny. It's not necessarily the front three I would go with, but that's depending. I don't get to look at the players. I don't get to speak to the players and ask how they're feeling, how their legs are feeling, whether they've got the energy to go again. We have had that week break, well, almost a week break. So that should have offered some rest and rejuvenation to a lot of our tired players. Whether Sonny is good to go after the knock he copped, I mean, his ankle got crunched in that tackle and looked pretty sore. I know I've had a few crunching tackles across different sports on my ankle and had it blow up, and I know how hard it can be to get around on your ankle when it's been like that. So one thing I would say, if he's not fit, I hope that Ange can actually look at different options. Because it's no good just putting out the same players over and over again if they are running to the ground or if they don't have that energy to go again. Because we need players out there that are ready to go from the first minute. And if someone's not got that energy, bring him on at the 60th minute. Bring him on at the 70th minute if we need to change the game. If not, you might get the opportunity to give him a full game's rest. Not saying that with the thought process that we can take Ipswich lightly, because I don't think we can. I think Ipswich will be up for it. Ipswich know that they got the result against us last time, and they'll be coming out firing. They'll be seeing this as an opportunity. They'll go, hey, we got Tottenham again. Let's see if we can roll them over. Let's see if we can give some momentum. They want to fight out of their relegation spot. They don't want to go down. So we've really got to be up for it. And I don't think anyone in the club will be taking it lightly. I just think we need to be putting out fit players as well as our best players. It's got to be some sort of balance. It can't just be one or the other. A few of the players that would be really interesting to see. Could a doggy start? Is he any chance? I know he was on the bench for the last game and just back from injury. So could we potentially see a doggy come in at left back and switch Spence over to right back in his more natural position? We haven't seen too much of him playing at right back, and Porro could potentially do with a rest. But yeah, I might be surprised. I'd be thinking we'd be more likely to see Udogie come on later in the game and slowly break him in, because I think Ange is trying to learn from his lessons as far as injuries go with Tottenham, and it seems that we have a bit of a Tottenham curse as far as injuries go. It always seems like we have a huge amount of injured players, regardless of how we're travelling. It just seems to be constant. I saw some statistics about Jaffet Tanganga and the fact that he's not been injured since he left Tottenham, and I think every season he was at Tottenham, he suffered at least one, if not multiple, injuries that kept him out for significant periods of time. And somehow he's left Tottenham and got himself right and playing consistent and a very high level of football. And I always liked him. I liked his fire when he was with us. So props to him. I'm happy to see him doing well. But at the moment, I'd really like to see all our players doing well and see all our players fit and firing and ready to go. Um, do we think Gray will start on the bench again? He's another option. Is Danso good to go? That's probably where that conversation comes in. Danso obviously got that knock and come off late in the Manchester United game, and if he's not good to go, maybe we'll see Gray step into a centre back position. The other thing you could look at with Gray is there a potential of him starting in the midfield? We haven't seen him really in the midfield, and that is supposedly his best position or his preferred position. I do think he's probably the sort of player who, wherever you put him out on the field, he has the nous and the ability to probably put in a good shift all across the pitch. Um, it might just be a matter of finding where he's best suited to us when we have all our players available. And we don't want to run him into the ground either. But obviously, he got a bit of a rest in the last game, so he is an option. The other guy who copped a bit of a knock was Bentancur. Could Sarr start in the midfield instead of him? I do think Sarr's form has been not great of late, unfortunately. So I'd be surprised if he starts. But if Bentancur's no good, then maybe he does. I did early on when Sarr came to Tottenham. I absolutely loved everything he was providing to us. I thought his energy is great, and I still think his energy can be great. I do think he's been better coming off the bench as opposed to when he's been starting recently, though. And a lot of his passing's been sloppy. But I could say the same about Bentancur, and even the third player who comes into this discussion, Basuma. I think all of them can be lazy on the ball at times and lazy with their passing. Bentancur's probably got the most skill on the ball, in my opinion, out of those three. So I think if Bentancur's fit and ready to go, I think he'll be the starting player out of those three. Obviously, I already touched on it a bit with Sonny. Is he fit? Is he good to go? What other options do we have out there on the left if he's not good to go, or if he does need that extra week's break? A lot of people have been calling for Odegaard, and I loved everything he provided in that 5 minute cameo he had. But I don't think he's going to be ready to start for the full 90. I think hopefully we see a few more minutes from him. Hopefully he might be able to come out for 15 or 20. I'm sure our sports scientists will be, and our medical team will be letting Ange know how many minutes they recommend him getting. I'm sure it's Ange's call at the end of the day, but I don't think he'll be pushing him too hard. I don't think he'll be trying to put too much strain on him, given the length of time he was out for, and given that he's a young player, and a young player with clearly a huge amount of talent. I think he's a ball of excitement. The way he can beat a man, I think if all things align and he develops and can be a consistent performer for us, I think he could really change the way that our forward line functions. I think he probably has more dribbling ability than anyone I can see at Tottenham at the moment. Um, so I don't think he'll be coming in to start. I don't think that's really an option at this stage. Could Moore start out on the left? We all know Moore's ability. Obviously, still just a kid. Um, but it could be a game where he's an option. Whether you give Moore the 60 minutes and bring Sonny on for the last 30, depending on how the game's going. Give Moore the 60 minutes, give Sonny the whole game off if we happen to be 1-0 up, 2-0 up or something, and give Odegaard the last 30 minutes. So those are both options. But as I said earlier, I think Ange will more than likely go with the same lineup that we've seen last week. It does tend to be the Ange way, and one of the big criticisms of Ange is that once he finds something that he seems to think is our strongest lineup, he does seem to stick with it, regardless of the other options that are around. But it could just depend on fitness and injuries. Another option that I did come up with in my head, and I think this one's fairly unlikely, but I wouldn't hate to see it either because, I mean, me personally, I love to see some of the kids get a go. But it might be shifting players around that he doesn't want to shift around. But another option, if Sonny's not fit, might be to push Tal out onto the left and for Scarlett to go through the middle. Obviously, Scarlett's a fairly natural central option, and Tal, we've been told, has the ability to play all across that front three. So that is obviously an option. And the last time we saw Scarlett, or 2 times ago we saw Scarlett, I think. Hard to remember back before those cup games that Scarlett was cup tied for because I think they damaged me a little bit. I put a bit of a mental block on that period of time. But obviously, when Scarlett scored that goal, the header, he really grabbed that opportunity. So I do hope that we do get to see Scarlett get some minutes because obviously once Solanke's back fit and then we've got Tal as the option, I do think that it's probably unlikely that Scarlett gets too many minutes. We're not going to have too many games that we can take easily for the rest of the season. They're all gonna mean a lot, unless we happen to take a Premier League game easy, depending on how our results go. Not saying that we're going to be in a comfortable position, but the Europa League might be our preference. So maybe we might rest some players up for a Premier League game further down the track if we've got a big Europa League game coming up after that. But we'll just have to wait and see. So I do think that option's unlikely, but if I did see Scarlett run out in the Spurs shirt, I'd be more than happy to cheer him on, as I am for any of the players that run out in the Spurs shirt. As far as my score prediction for the game goes, I'm going to go with a pretty optimistic score prediction. I think 3-1 win. I think they might still cause us some problems. I don't think we're 100% defensively sound. I do feel a lot more confident now that Vicario's back. Danso performing well. Spence performing well. I do think that we should have the defensive options to cover them enough as long as our forwards can fire enough. But I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to snag one. Potentially Delap. He looks like a talented kid, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him get in the score sheet. But hopefully we can bang in a couple. I think a few things had gone right for us in the United game, and we might have banged in a few more. Same went for United, but yeah, I think it's just too big of a game, too important of a game, and we really need to build this momentum. If we can keep building momentum, who knows where we can go, and who knows how we can attack the Europa League. So yeah, that'll be my prediction: a 3-1 win, and we'll come back after the game and see how that prediction panned out. Hopefully, I'm not yelling into the microphone for the next step. Anyway, come on, you Spurs.